Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Qorent-Xperts podcast. I'm super delighted to have you here today. Thank you for your comments, feedback, and general suggestions on how we can make the podcast better. You guys are the real MVP. We trust that you've been getting loads of value from every episode of the podcast. And as you already know, we bring members of staff of Core who are subject matter specialists to discuss different topics ranging from tech to fintech to software development to infrastructure to product management, just the whole 9 yards. And we are basically keen on delivering value. Today I have with me the amazing Oche Eluma, the group head of infrastructure and information systems here at Core. And we're going to be discussing future-proofing banking, the role of cloud computing. I promise you guys are in for an amazing time. Oche is a genius when it comes to cloud computing. And I want you to give him a warm welcome. I'm going to be reading his bio shortly so that you have a bit of context of the man behind the title. Hi, Oche.
Hi, Tolo. Hi, everyone.
It's good to have you on this episode. I'm doing good, thank you. I'm glad we are finally getting to do this. It's good to have you on this episode of the podcast. Okay, awesome. Yeah. So we're going to jump right into it. But before we do, let me just give a bit of a context and help you guys to know Oche better. I'm going to be reading Oche's bio shortly so that we have better context. So Oche is a seasoned tech executive with extensive experience across diverse sectors, including both public and private domains. With a robust background in networks, security, and computer technologies, Oche has earned the prestigious status of Senior Solutions Architect. Interesting. His career journey spans high-impact roles from key engineering positions within the presidency to leadership roles at major international edutechs and Tier 1 financial institutions. At Core Technologies Limited, Oche leads the Infrastructure and Information Systems Group, driving innovation and excellence in technology solutions. His wealth of experience and multiple professional qualifications make him a distinguished figure in the tech industry. He's committed to advancing technological progress and fostering digital transformation. When Oche is not all about being Superman, he loves watching sci-fi series, football, playing tennis, and playing soccer on gaming consoles. Everyone, a warm welcome for Oche.
This has to be the longest. That bio.
That's the bio I have. I'm sure this is not even exhaustive enough. Great to have you here, Oche. So let's jump right into it. And I'm sure you are ready for us. You're ready to give us as much subject matter expertise on this topic that we're discussing today.
I hope so. I hope to add, very interesting topic. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so let's just jump right into it. I'm going to ask you the first question, just for the benefit of those who don't really know what we're talking about and we're not throwing jargon around. What does future-proofing banking infrastructure mean to you, and why is it essential in today's financial landscape?
Future-proofing banking infrastructure. Very, very, very interesting phrase, right? And I mean, an interesting phrase that a lot relies on, a lot depends on. Just basically, just the strategic process of designing, and implementing, systems, technologies, processes, within the banking sector that are generally, resilient, adaptable, that can scale, that can adjust to meet current and and future demands, as implied in the subject, right? The idea is that the ability to build infrastructure that can withstand technological advancements, regulatory changes, which happen every 2 seconds in this industry, right? Evolving customer expectations and requirements, risks, so much risks in having to do what we do in the way we do. So the ability to do all of this, design systems that are resilient to this without requiring complete overhauls, without having to tear everything down at once and redo it, is basically what future-proofing banking infrastructure is about. It's staying ahead of the curve, making sure that banks are not just reacting to change, but are positioned to lead, to innovate in the face of that change. And it's really, really important because of just the sheer nature of what we do, the industry being highly competitive and dynamic and so yeah. I think that's my own take on what future-proofing banking infrastructure is, what it means and what its importance generally tries to solve, the issues it tries to solve.
Amazing. I totally hear you on that. So just to summarize what you've said, it's basically building for the future and staying ahead of the curve, basically, to just put it in such a way that you don't have to tear down what you have at the moment to be able to adapt to the future. It's more of you like building on top of what you have, in that sense.
It's providing for the unexpected, right? Providing a system that will be adequate today and adequate tomorrow.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you for breaking that down. So I'm going to go to my next question, basically. So this is the era of the cloud. Any little thing we're hearing cloud. Please explain to people like me that are in marketing, what exactly is this cloud thing that we're talking about, and how do you see cloud computing transforming traditional banking infrastructure?
Okay. So yeah, the cloud, the buzzword right now in technology, right? Very interesting word. First of all, choice of word, right? Because it seems to imply an invincible, something up in the sky that controls everything. But it's just really just a buzzword. Ideally, it still has a lot to do with setting up infrastructure that is just designed in such a way that everything is built on an underlay, and then there's an overlay where people can just consume it on demand, rather than have an original world where for you to run some things you have to spend billions of naira to build your own, right? Imagine you needed to sleep somewhere for a night, and the only way to have that done is you have to dig foundation and build up your own house just for something you would have needed for a night, for a week. Cloud infrastructure creates a system that has all of this already built, and people can just leverage on it to solve whatever tech-related problems or solutions or services they want to provide. But yeah, that's just summary of what the cloud does, right? But you asked a very critical question, and this question is interesting, because everybody, tech is like at the sort of like crossroads, right, where you have cloud computing versus what is considered traditional on-premise infrastructure. In this case, traditional banking infrastructure, since that's what we're talking about. So yeah, cloud computing, in the way I've explained it, just imagine that you didn't have to do the work to build the house. The house already existed. You can just come in and do whatever you want to do. You already have those initial teething problems, initial building problems resolved, right? That in itself, that ability in itself is basically what cloud computing sells to us. Now, how does that transform traditional banking infrastructure? It's pretty transformative in what we've seen and what we will still see, because this, even though this technology has established, is still in some sort still, how will I say, it's still sort of, and something still going through acceptance, sort of, right? There's still school of thought that would go against and go for, which is, what makes it an interesting subject. Now, cloud computing introduces unprecedented levels of flexibility, of scalability, of efficiency in how, the banking sector will work, how it used to work, how it will work going forward, because of just how every other thing is easy to move from point A to point B. One of the major advantages that cloud computing, introduces to traditional, or introduces above traditional banking infrastructure, is scalability and agility. If we look at scalability, for instance, as a subject now, today you will notice that at the end of the month, or during festive periods, or at Christmas or something, your bank apps are hanging, right? Your transactions are failing, right? And you're wondering, what makes today different from any other day? You see, where the way traditional infrastructure is, it's not built to be as flexible or to scale during unusual spikes, right? So cloud computing allows you, first of all, to be able to handle spikes, and for banking, like transaction volumes, during peak periods or during some unexpected, beautiful economic events. I think sometime, was it last year, when Emefiele tried to switch the currency? I don't know if you remember that period where there was like cash unavailability, apps were not working, all of that. That is direct first-class situation or first-class issue you deal with typically when you have traditional banking infrastructure. So what you saw then was all your tier 1 banks did not have the infrastructure to accommodate the just unprecedented amount of transaction or dependence on their systems, right? But with the cloud, you can scale on demand flexibly. You have systems that are serverless, it's so elastic that you can be at a point where you're used to doing 2,000 transactions per minute to having to deal with 1 million transactions per minute, and the server systems will scale to accommodate that, scale upward and scale downward, right? That's like a massive advantage, right? You need to think of also deployment. One of the problems again with traditional banking is just speed. The advantages that your fintechs have today, look at, we know Flutterwave, MoneyPoint, all of them. You check how old are they, right? They're pretty new banks, and they're beginning to rival some other older banking, more stable tier 1 institutions that have been there for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. Now, all of this is really possible because of the cloud, right? It's easier for you to deploy new applications, roll out innovative products without being bogged down by the limitations of on-premise hardware. Right? You think an idea today and you can be implementing it tomorrow without thinking of all the initial issues. Another advantage that cloud computing has really over traditional banking infrastructure, and this is this is really, what's the word now? It's something that, there are multiple school of thoughts on, right? But it also depends on how you look at it. Cost efficiency. Now,
okay.
I don't know if you're aware, CBN asked all tier 1 institutions to do recapitalization, to raise funds, right? Like you see, banks selling shares and all of that up and down. You must have seen that now. Yeah. Of course, there are some economic reasons why, but if you listen to any of those banks and you listen to their unveiling and you listen to the reason why they are trying to raise those funds, you hear all of them say things like, they want to, put new investments in IT infrastructure. And this is into billions, right? Because on-prem infrastructure, traditional banking infrastructure is extremely expensive. It's capital intensive. Now, for you to do 1, 2, 3 things, you have to spend money in billions to buy those systems, to set them up, right? Before you begin to use them and learn them and all the processes. However, in the cloud, you can deploy on demand, shut down. You don't need to spend all that amount of money on capital expenditure that at the end of the day after some years will no longer be relevant. You will have to re-spend that money, if you get my point. There's that. Optimize resource utilization, right? With cloud, it's easy for you to only deploy what you need. Traditional banking infrastructure, you have to buy the thing. If you have in cloud computing, you can have a car that has one seat, just like one seat. For in cloud computing, that's possible. In traditional banking infrastructure, you have to buy a full car with the 4 seats, even if you're the only one driving or you're the only one in it, you understand? So there's optimized resource utilization, there's security, enhanced security and compliance also in the cloud. The cloud platforms, most of them at least, the public important ones, are built with compliance in mind. They already have GDPR, quite compliance standards, all of them, requirements already baked into them. And so it takes off the burden of those manual errors that your traditional infrastructure will have, because these people already cater to all of these things for you. Another very, very important advantage of cloud computing, over traditional banking infrastructure is just improved innovation and collaboration. Like I said, you don't have to, you want to cook, right? And everything is already set up. You can just go to get to cooking, right? It's easier for you to spend your brain power on more innovative items, it's easier for you to collaborate because the cloud is also very easy to integrate multiple things. And of course, collaboration advances technology and innovation. And so that's another advantage, of cloud computing. Another very, very unique advantage is disaster recovery. And this is something that is personally for me, right? It's one of the key things I want to fix, because in my years of experience, I've been in a lot of organizations that have spent hundreds of millions on trying to fix this problem. And an important problem, right? You build a system, you build an organization, and everything relies on that system, that the whole organization relies on that system, and something happens. COVID, some disaster, and everything is gone. Businesses are closed because there's no disaster recovery plan, there's no business continuity plan. In the cloud, those things are easier, right? Like I said, I've been in a lot of institutions where more money has been spent, and still it was almost impossible to achieve that disaster recovery, not for lack of trying, but just because of how complicated architectural designs for infrastructure, for application, for data is. There's really a lot of moving parts, you get. And so, but with the cloud, it's easier, right? There are options. First of all, the cloud already comes in baked in with some level of disaster recovery. And they have those solutions. They also have geographical redundancy. It's very easy for me today to move stuff from the US to France with a couple of clicks. I can do that this night, But traditional infrastructure, you have to go buy a building in another country, make sure there's electricity, set it up, make sure. So it's just layers and layers of complication. You get, yeah. So yeah, I think, yeah. And then there's global reach. That's another very important advantage of cloud computing. So today, our tier one banking institutions are what Nigerian institutions, at best African institutions, and even before they can roll out in another country, they have to go set up, like I said, set up a lot of infrastructure. With cloud computing, is easier. Your stuff is agile. You can move from point A to point B. You can deploy in different countries. You can, customize stuff to feed the different localities. So yeah, those are some very important, advantages that cloud computing has over, your traditional banking infrastructure.
Awesome.
Sorry.
Awesome.
I hope I wasn't getting carried away. I feel like
No, you weren't. You were just flowing. Like you're an advocate for cloud computing. I could see the passion.
Yeah, because I have been in, and before core, right? Which is this was before core. Almost every other environment I had worked in was on-prem traditional banking infrastructures, and that's why because I've been at the two sides of the lane, right? I've been at both sides, and I've felt what the differences are. So it makes me sometimes get carried away when I need to advocate for cloud. But yeah,
not a problem at all. Awesome. So it's almost like you're a cloud computing advocate. I hear you. So I'm just going to go to my next question, and that is, okay, so you've spoken about cloud computing and its advantages from the perspective of an engineer, as someone who is building maybe what's it called, architecture for infrastructure in that sense. So, but in what way would you say cloud computing is shaping the future of customer experience in banking? Now, on the other end, on the other side of those that are receiving the products and services, how is cloud computing shaping that experience for them?
Okay, very, very good question. Thank you. So yeah, cloud computing enables a lot of things, like I've said, right? Efficiency, agility, scalability. At the end of those things enjoy. The end product of all of those things is the perspective of the customer. Now, one thing it does do is it helps you, for instance, because of just the amount of compute power, the ability to aggregate data, to drive insights from that data. It helps with a lot of personalization and with a lot of provisioning of, sort of like tailored services, right? Cloud computing, enables banks and fintechs, including ours, to analyze customer data in real time, provide insight into what individual preferences are, into what spending habits are, what financial goals. Help us have that amount of information to personalize things like loan offers, like our Recover product sort of, is trying to fix, trying to speak to, help you with investment advice. Just be able to use real-time data to customize the customer experience, sort of, right? Another very important thing it will do for the customer is be able to provide sort of like dynamic pricing, right? So imagine that, and for instance, Core, right? Let me use Core as a typical institution. Now, Core is, present in about 7 countries today, right? That's 7 different sets of people from different backgrounds, races, different experiences, different day-to-day lives, different currencies, different economic situations. A typical Nigerian bank with traditional infrastructure will have to go through a lot to be able to provide the service, right? They will have to have a center of excellence, build some form of infrastructure that is identical across board, and try to benchmark, what offers it gives to the customers. But with Core and with cloud computing, it's easy for you to, make this decision based on location, transaction history, to be able to offer these things, because you can sort of move infrastructure in a way that it speaks to the particular locality that you're sort of trying to support, right, to service. And that's an advantage, the ability to regulate or to right size your offers to those guys. Another advantage also in alignment is just enhanced accessibility and convenience. With the cloud, you can bank anywhere, anytime. There's no shutting down infrastructure from this time to that time. It's a continuous system that runs 24/7. You can offer multiple channels. Today, we're looking at agency banking, right? And agency banking is doing a lot in terms of financial inclusion, in terms of reaching the unreached, banking the unbanked, people that are edges that do not have access to this traditional banking infrastructures, these physical locations. Today, you can have, your money point, your cluster, your, whatever POS machines be in very remote areas and do transactions, because those things can speak to services running in the cloud. You understand? And different people can use it. That's a massive advantage of cloud computing. Also, they can use all these things. That's for customer experience, right? They can use all these things faster. The experience is faster, it's more efficient, instant transactions, instant approvals, automation, also enhance customer support and engagement, right? It's easier to have proactive support with banking because of the amount of data people have, the amount of teams. The teams are agile when you have those cloud systems sort of. So yeah, quite some advantages that the customer can really enjoy. Quite some flexibility also innovation, right? The way cloud is posed is easy for you to roll. I mean, we are rolling out products in core almost every other day, right? And that's because of the speed, the compute power that cloud gives. And the products serve, everything is built with the aim to serve the customer, giving them more options, being able for us to collaborate with other fintechs to provide better services basically to our customers. So yeah.
Amazing stuff. So I hear you speak on flexibility, innovation, costs, and cost on the part of the customer as well, because you're able to scale on your own end and without significant or substantial cost incurred. And then you talked about efficient customer experience, hyper personalization. We're able to personalize experiences and tailor it to each customer. Awesome. It just seems like cloud computing. If people are not on cloud computing at this point in time, what are they doing? I mean, like it looks like the advantages outweigh the other end, if there's even any disadvantage at all. So Oche, thank you so much for that. So you mentioned something when I asked you a question previously about the capitalization and many banks moving on to cloud and moving from on-premise to cloud. And so it brings me to the next question. As a thought leader in this field of cloud computing, what are the innovations in cloud computing that you would say that, but before I ask you that, let me ask you this. What advice would you give to banking leaders who are looking to adopt cloud technology while minimizing disruptions?
So, yeah, very, very good question, right? So to be fair, right, I mean, everything has its advantages and everything has its disadvantages. That being said, people implement cloud technologies in different ways, including our banks. One of the major reasons, like you said, right, this thing looks like it makes sense. Why is everybody not doing it? right? Why is everybody not already doing it? And it's because there are some legitimate concerns, right? While cloud computing or cloud technology the banking sector can be transformative, it also requires very careful planning, execution, because it's sort of a revamping thing. So there's disruption, and people generally don't want to take those risks that can impact systems. However, it's something that has to be done. I mean, it's where we are as a people now in the industry generally in terms of technological advancement, right? So there are quite some very key things that need to be done when banking leaders want to make decisions. And one of them, in fact, the most important of all of them, is first of all developing a clear cloud strategy. Not everything needs to be on the cloud, right? Not everything is baked to be, and I think we might speak to some of those issues later. But the first thing is your strategy needs to be aligned to the business goals, right? The business needs to look at the cloud adoption strategy and say, what is the bigger picture, right? Which workloads are we trying to, and I just spoke to some of the advantages. And first of all, determine that, okay, this is what the business goal is. Are we going international? Are we trying to reach some other unbanked, and there are quite some things the business can be trying to do. Then phase the approach as part of your strategy, right? And what I mean by phase the approach is gradually move those workloads. You can't just switch up everything, right? It's, like I said, even with disaster recovery, it's really, really complicated infrastructure, complicated technology, as a matter of fact, right? And so you also need to set realistic expectations. And all of these fit into, first of all, developing the strategy. Now, next stage would be, engaging and educating the stakeholders, right? The executive team of these banks, because of just the sheer impact of what this change will be. It's not easy. It's not something that will be easy to do without executive buy-in. And so without the executive team supporting that business change or that transformative change, rather, it makes the process a little bit complicated. Then you need to have employee training, because you are dealing with guys that are used to a different type of system, right? That need to adapt, need to learn this new system, right? You also need to implement good change management. Implement a system, a process that allows these changes happen in a way that is not disruptive. Another very important thing is to prioritize security and compliance. Banking is a highly regulated industry, highly, and in the cloud, that will be one of the issues that you have people, just because they are not used to how it works, or because they're not so familiar with it, securing it is not so easy, right? So it needs to be baked into the initial plan. Security, compliance, understanding that in the cloud, you have what is called sort of like a shared responsibility model, right? The cloud provider handles a part of that, you handle another part. You need to make sure that the division of those security responsibilities are clear and everybody covers their own bases, right? You need to make sure that you choose compliant clouds that are already compliant to, geographical regulatory bodies, compliance bodies, ISO. There are quite a couple of them, but people already have baked in those regulations, those guidelines, those guardrails into their systems, right? Also, like I said, you need to face it. You need to start with low risk workloads. You want to move to the cloud, you can't just move straight up. You need to start by putting low risk stuff, pilot projects, hybrid solutions, understanding how those things will work together. You need to also be careful with your data management and migration, right? Data governance, make sure that your data migration is well planned. It needs to be a very careful process. You need to also be and because of regulation, right? Data sovereignty and localization. In fact, I would say that that's the biggest problem that banks have, right? Every country, for instance, Nigeria, NDPR, every country has their own data protection laws. No country is comfortable with putting their customer data or their people's financial records in a different country somewhere else. It's this sort of some form of data sovereignty issues, and that really is a major reason why banks don't move, right? Not because they don't want to. Like I said, the advantages are clear. They all know these things, but compliance doesn't let them move because there are always going to be concerns around localization of data residency, and all those stuff. But yeah, you need to think about those things. You need to plan them into your migration strategy. You need to plan disaster recovery. Disaster recovery means, in this case, means that you decide today that you move stuff to the cloud. You need to be prepared to roll back if you have issues. You need to have a good plan that says, see, we move these things to the cloud. However, if there are some issues, we've planned it in such a way that we can roll back and reattempt when we fix those issues, and making a culture of continuous improvement, because like I said, moving to the cloud is a complicated process, but it can be very strict. It can be very easy when it is planned, right? When you have a good strategy, right? And you face it. Once you face it, you plan it. You don't just do it abruptly. You move things one by one, and then before you know, you're settled. So yeah. If banking leaders follow these processes, generally, it will make their migration to the cloud and the benefits of it, way, 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 way better.
Awesome. Oche, just in a few minutes, just gave banking leaders a blueprint for moving to the cloud. Amazing stuff. Thank you so much, Oche. We're gradually coming to the end of this episode of the podcast. It has been very, very insightful. So just looking at your journey in cloud computing so far, what innovations in cloud computing do you think will have the biggest impact on banking over the next 5 to 10 years? Just a few of them, just a couple, even as we wrap up. What innovations in cloud computing do you think will have the biggest impact on banking over the next 5 to 10 years?
Okay. Advanced AI and machine learning, right? Artificial intelligence and machine learning. Yeah. Cloud computing, just because of, like I said, the ability to aggregate data, right? To train that data, the compute power involved. You have systems, so all your chats, all your GPTs, right? All your AI platforms, Copilots from Microsoft, ChatGPT from, OpenAI. All those things are built on cloud computing platforms, right? In banking, the ability to leverage those machine learning to train those data, of course, will help with better customer insight, like I had said, right? To help with risk management, to help with even automated decision making, personalized financial advice, credit scoring, loan approvals. So yeah, AI will play a very massive role in the next 5-10 years. Another beautiful thing is what our cousins on the zone, our cousins are doing, right? The zone team, blockchain, blockchain and distributed ledger technologies. The way they are built, they will have massive impact, right? They're secure, you have smart contracts, they help you deal with cross-border payments, efficient transfers. Blockchain will be another massive innovation in this space. Another thing will be edge computing. Edge computing has a lot to do with, faster processing, right? Because your computing is happening closer to the people that need it. So you're not having a traditional infrastructure or physical on-prem infrastructure in Nigeria speaking to people somewhere far in Sierra Leone. Cloud will allow you to be able to, process or do this processing closer to who you need them. So you have real-time processing, faster transactions, of course, better customer experience, and even IoT, Internet of Things, integration to other things, right? Connected devices, wristwatches, to be able to sell other products and all of that. So yeah, I think those are some technologies or innovations in the next few 5-10 years that will make massive ripples in the space.
Amazing. Wow. This has been a power-packed episode. So Oche, before we go, let me just throw in this bonus question. How do you think banks can balance innovation with the need to maintain robust security in a cloud computing environment, the need to balance innovation, always iterating and innovating, and that need to also maintain robust security in a cloud environment?
Thank you, Tolu. You see, the cloud, like I said, right, everything has like the advantages and has its advantages and its disadvantages. Now, there are a couple of things during this call that you spoke to that were, interesting, right? Because they can be both. They can be an advantage and they can be a disadvantage. Something like cost efficiency, something like cost rather, right? Cost can be an advantage, but one of the most critical of all of those pillars is security. And security in cloud is a thing, but like you said, security in terms of innovation, because the thing with innovation has a lot to do with speed, right? It has a lot to do with timing, with providing, like, doing stuff that's just unprecedented, and in a quick manner, in a timed manner. Now, when you are tinkering with stuff, right? When you're playing with stuff, you're innovating and you're doing all that, there tends to be sort of, security is blindsided, right? There tends to be not so much consciousness in terms of security, because security has a way of putting roadblocks, right? Creating, slowing down that process, because there are guard systems that are designed to also make sure that whatever you're building is not, becoming a risk either to the people you're trying to serve or to the organization. And so, yeah, there is need to balance that innovation with security, with robust security, as a matter of fact. And one of the ways to do that, first of all, will be to build and implement a very strong security framework. Define your security policies properly from the initial design of those infrastructure. Security needs to be baked into it, right? The policies, the architecture, you use a zero trust architecture, make sure that data is encrypted, both at rest and in transit. So yeah, building a strong security framework is a very important part of balancing innovation and security. Another thing in the cloud, is also learning or knowing how to leverage the cloud provider security features. Like I said, these cloud providers already have a lot of things built in. So first of all, you need to, there are a lot of cloud providers, right? You need to evaluate your cloud provider security stack, right? Check that they have achieved strong security credential and certificate, your ISO 27001, your SOC 2, your GDPR. Make sure that those things also align with your own goals, with the bank security requirements. Understand, like I said, the shared responsibility model. Security is already baked into some of these cloud systems, right? But you will always have a part to play. So you need to understand where that connection is and make sure that you sort that out, that everybody handles their responsibilities properly. You need to also adopt a security first approach. While it is important that you provide service, first thing you need to think of is security. Whatever you are doing before you deliver whatever service that does not have security in it is not what is, like, no matter how beautiful it is, it's not worth it if it's not secured, right? Because it can easily become ugly if it is not secured. So, you need to integrate security into the development of those applications, of those systems. You need to make sure that you are doing regular security assessments, that you even automate your security processes just to make sure that there are no gaps because of manual application. Another important thing is you need to consciously foster the culture of security awareness. Right? Security is in people, is in processes, in tech. It's not just technology, it's also in people. You need to have everybody security conscious. Everybody have the mindset, right? So train your employees, encourage their collaboration with the security teams, promote that mindset. The other things you do, you implement robust security access controls, RBAC, multi-factor system controls, make sure that there are double levels of authentication, and ensure that your systems are compliant to regulatory bodies, right? If you do these things, you will be able to balance your innovation with the consciousness of security. Like I said, whatever innovation that does not have security baked into it is not worth it, right? Because it can easily become a problem. And so, yeah.
Thank you so much, Oche. So, words on Marvel, everyone. No matter what you're building, no matter what products you're shipping, it doesn't matter how great it is if it is not secure. So, security first. Thank you so much, Oche, for your time and just sharing of your expertise and wealth of knowledge. I mean, this has really been a robust conversation. You could almost even pass on for a masterclass. Thank you so much. You've really really shared from, and I'm sure that our viewers as well have really learned a lot from this conversation, and I'm looking forward to bringing you on more episodes and even have more than one person in the room where you get to talk about cloud computing and just infrastructure in general. I can see that it's definitely something that you are super passionate about as well. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for this conversation.
It's been fun doing this, right? Thanks for the opportunity to have these conversations.
Amazing. So thank you so much, guys, for tuning in on this episode of the podcast. Till we come your way again, please feel free to drop comments, questions you might have for Oche in the comments, and we will definitely answer your questions. And we look forward to your feedback as well on how we can make the podcast better. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until we come your way again on the next episode of the podcast. Keep being amazing and keep being courageous. Bye, everyone.